Now, there is one more thing that I want to point out to you. I've been using the word betrothed through this entire Torah portion because that's the word that is used in the section on servitude. But I believe that the nation of Israel actually married Yeshua. You know, we today are still only betrothed. Our marriage has not yet been consummated with a wedding supper and so forth. So what makes me believe there was a wedding supper at Mount Sinai? Well, let's turn to Exodus 24, verse 9. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up, and they saw the God of Israel. There was under his feet, as it were, a pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness. And he did not lay his hand on the chief men of the people of Israel. They beheld God, and ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, Come up to me on the mountain, and wait there, that I may give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandment which I have written for their instruction. So Moses arose with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up into the mountain of God. And he said to the elders, Wait here for us while we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute, let him go to them. Then Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the people of Israel. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Verse 10 describes the reception hall with a floor like sapphire, and so clear that it was as clear as heaven. And verse 11 says, They beheld God and ate and drank. My friends, these 70 elders looked at God face to face. It wasn't only Moshe that saw God face to face, as is usually taught, but these 70 elders also saw him with their eyes. Now, they represented all of the nation of Israel. But listen, that's a wedding supper, my friends, and they were up there for 7 days in God's glory. That wedding was consummated. Now, on a different note, why do we jump from the parallel ordinance on servitude, that's the one that corresponds to the first commandment, all the way down the list to commandment number 6? Why don't we now have a parallel ordinance to the second commandment? Let's read these next few commandments, starting in verse 15. Whoever strikes his father or his mother shall be put to death. Whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in possession of him shall be put to death. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies shall be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place to which he may flee. But if a man wilfully attacks another man to kill him by cunning, you shall take him from my altar, that he may die. When men quarrel, and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and the man does not die but takes to his bed, then if the man rises again and walks outdoors with his staff, he who struck him shall be clear, only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall have him thoroughly healed. We'll stop there. The next set of ordinances deal with the 6th commandment, which is about murder. So why do we skip the commandments from number 2 to number 5? Well, it's because the first 5 commandments are fulfilled in the first parallel ordinance on servitude from Exodus 21 verses 2 to 11. Why do I say that? Where is the mention of, images, profaning God's name, the Sabbath, and honoring the parents in verses 2 to 11? Well, let's go back to verse 8. If she please not her master who has betrothed her to himself. Well, what are the things that displeased Jehovah most about the house of Israel? Their images and idolatry, and not keeping the Sabbath. In these things they profaned his name to all the nations around them, and this was a dishonor to him as the father of their nation. The very first parallel ordinance of the living parables, as I call them, contain all the ways that she, that's the nation of Israel, displeased Jehovah the Father during her status as servant when they were moving from Egypt to Mount Sinai. She even dishonored her father in the same way that a child can dishonor a human parent by being obstinate, complaining, and such. So the next stop along the way is to the rest of the ordinances that parallel the other commandments. Now, there are several broad categories of ordinances that fulfill the 6th through the 10th commandments. And I want to thank my brother Rico Cortez for providing this list. The list is loss by oppression, bodily damage, property damage, custodianship and care of borrowed items, the seduction of minors, regulations concerning money lending, laws regarding violence perpetrated in secret, and bearing false witness. Now I have to stop here because I've just about run out of time. But I hope that you will go and do the study. Study the word beged. Do what I did. Copy all of the verses that have the 2 uses and look at them. And then go and read these other ordinances. They're simple, they're easy, and they're not burdensome. Their yoke is light, and they are our mercy for a long, happy life. Shabbat Shalom.